Good afternoon. Thank all of you for being here today. Today is July 6th. It's approximately, we're running just a little behind, 6:05. We're going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. I'm going to ask if Commissioner, well, he's eating, so I'm going to, Commissioner Mason, if you would lead us in our invocation tonight, and Commissioner Henderson, if you would lead us in our pledge tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let us all bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us back to this place one more time. We thank you for all that you've done for our community and all that you are going to do. We ask that as we move forward in doing the Splost business of our community, that we are able to come together, work together, and bring about the things that are going to really help elevate and take our community to the next level. Give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding on how to make the best decisions for our community, where we will all benefit from the decisions that are made. We thank you in advance. We appreciate you because you said it, we believe in. That settles it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Again, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. We're here for our special call meeting tonight. Thank you. We're here for our special call meeting tonight, our Splost meeting. I'm going to now turn it over to, well, I guess we need to get a motion to adopt the agenda. I seek a motion, please.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second. Thank you. There's been a motion by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Passes 5-0. Thank you, ma'am. Next, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Sims. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, we're passing out, commissioners, it's a copy of what we provided last time, and that is a draft document of the 2023 proposed Splost projects. Tonight, we also have the Vice Chair, Jeff Terrell, that's here to present the findings from the Splost Committee, and we would like for him just to talk about what was involved with the Splost Committee on how they came up with the projects.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
First of all, our chairperson, Mr. Baxter Bruchilden, could not make it this evening, so he asked me would I fill in tonight to share some information with you. Before I get started, I do want to introduce the committee members that are here with us. For those of you that don't know the committee members, we got Ms. Bobby Shepherd in the back. Raise your hand, Ms. Bobby. Mr. Kenny, Pastor Kenny Williams is not here tonight with us. He couldn't make it. We got Ms. Dana Herring with us tonight. I don't see Mr. Dan Elmore. He can't be with us tonight. Ms. Barbara Morgan, she's here with us. And myself, along with Baxter, we serve as the committee that has spent countless hours trying to put this proposal together and analyze all the things that were going on. So tonight, I just want to give you an overview that was shared at the previous meeting before you had decided that we would have this work session tonight. So Baxter presented to the board about 2 weeks ago all the information that you have at hand. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it and understand what we're trying to accomplish. So we as a committee in the whole month of May, every Tuesday, every Thursday, we'd spend 2 hours listening at all your directors throughout the county. Each one came in with their presentations, asking us what we consider their projects, along with any other things that they may wanted to add at that point. But they had full presentations. We all received those. We were able to ask questions on those nights, and we tried to get a full understanding of what was going on. So a lot of time, a lot of effort was placed into this, and strategically, we took it and we analyzed it. We sat down at that point as a committee, and we tried to look at every single project based upon the funding that they estimated that would be coming in. And so based on that funding, we took and we kind of percentage-wise everything out. We looked at public safety, we looked at infrastructure, we looked at all the things you got listed here, the public safety, the quality of life, the infrastructure, and last but not least, the debt that the county had. And we kind of gave a percentage of that, and we as a committee kind of said, hey, we want a large portion to go into public safety. The next highest portion, I think, went in infrastructure, and we had the debt in there along with the quality of life. Now, we wish we could have given every single person that presented us something their wish list, but based upon the allocation and the dollars that we're estimating to have, we were limited. We had to just make some decisions. And to be honest with you, it was probably a really tough decision for all of us to sit down and to say, we're gonna give money to this and not for that. So we felt like we presented you with a great recommendation here. And we understand that it's up to you as board members to make a decision on what gets allocated and where. But we as a board, we really put the time and the effort and the strategy in trying to make this a good recommendation to you. And so what you have before you is our recommendation. And if there are any changes that needs to be made, we understand that you as commissioners will have the privilege to do that. We spent a lot of time with Jarvis, spent a lot of time with Jeff, sitting down and they coached and counseled us through all the decisions that we were making. Sometimes we were robbing Peter to pay Paul in terms of this, but it all shook out like we thought it would. So the recommendations are here. We and a couple of committee members that are with me here today are willing to answer any questions you may have about how we come up with those decisions. And then it'll be in your hands then to make a decision on what we do and how we do it. So that's a quick overview, and we appreciate it. We as a team, we appreciate the opportunity to serve this county. We appreciate the opportunity to sit down and work this hard. So we do hope you use most of our recommendations. So with that in mind, I'll entertain any questions, or I'll turn it back over to Mr. Sims.
Thank you so much, Mr. Terrell, for your service. Not only you, but the rest of the Splost committee. We thank you guys for serving. We do understand that this was a tedious task, and we know this is something that is important to our community.
Absolutely.
So we thank you and your team for all that you do. Thank you so much. We're going to turn it now back over to Mr. Sims.
Okay.
And thank you for your
We are
overview.
here. If y'all have any questions, we're gonna sit in the meeting for a minute with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also like to just recognize the Splost Committee for doing a great job with the recommendation that we have before us today. As the Vice Chair indicated, they did take a holistic approach with coming up with this list. And based on the list that we have before us, I am in support of the list. I think that it tries to make an attempt to tackle all of the facing issues that we have as a county, whether it's public safety, infrastructure, quality of life. I think they did a great job with trying to address those. So I think that the list that we have before us is a great reflection of what we can do for our county as using Splost dollars. We also today received a letter from our county attorney. Basically, it's about, he had a meeting with the cities, and I'll be happy to allow the county attorney to kind of go over the findings from the meetings from the cities.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sims. And the meeting was the joint city-county meeting we had last week, and the cities had an opportunity to come forward and present the cities had a chance to come here and present their thoughts and views on the Splost. The main takeaway from that is the county has proposed purely population-based allocation of the Splost revenues. That would be 82.73% to the county and 17.27% to the cities. So that is just purely driven by the population statistics for the county. The cities have requested, instead of 17.27, that their share goes up to 24%. That would reduce the county's share to 76%. So at 76%, the county would have $82,080,000. The way the Splost statute works is the baseline is that a Splost is for 5 years. If there's an agreement between the cities and the county on how the Splost revenue should be allocated, the Splost would be extended up to 6 years. Alternatively, if the county were to identify level 1 projects, which means it's your administration building, buildings for constitutional officers, courthouse, jail, health department building. If you were to identify projects that totaled 24 months worth of Splost collections, then those projects would be taken off the top. The Splost would be extended for an additional year, so you would get back up to your 6 years. And then by default, the remaining Splost funds would be allocated between the county and the cities based on population. So we would be back at that population number under that approach, but the city's share would be greatly reduced. In my view, the first thing that the county has to decide is how to respond to the city's offer. This is a negotiation, and once the board is comfortable with what percentage would be going to the county and the cities, then you will know what the estimated projection of the Splost revenues are for the county, and that would help you refine your list. So my recommendation would be that would be the first point of discussion. There's an offer on the table of 76% to the county and 24% to the cities.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. And this goes to the county attorney. What have we given the cities in prior years, 6 years?
Bear with me for just a second. I've got that here in front of me. The question was, what did the cities receive previously? Yeah, bear with me for just a second. I did the math earlier today. Okay, so for the 2017 Splost, the county had 78%. And that would have left 22% for the cities. The 2017 Splost, and again, that was more in line with where the population was in 2017. But the 2017 agreement provided that to the extent that the Splost generated more revenue than what was anticipated, those additional revenues would be distributed differently. So once we hit that number, the county share went from 78% to 75%, and the city of Covington's went from 14.55% to 18.47%. And those figures are substantial. One of the things we heard from the city last week was that the county's population proposal would reduce their monthly collections under Splost, and that's true, but it's not as much of a reduction from where they were originally. It's a reduction from that escalation they negotiated for that would only come at the end of a Splost.
You have something else, Commissioner? Go ahead.
So, I mean, I'm asking, and I think you and the county managers are supposed to be negotiating, is that why not doing the negotiation where you got this amount of money in 2017 splash? So why can't we do something similar, close to what we did? I said anticipated, I believe it's gonna be similar to 2017 splash. I mean, so I'm just kind of trying to understand why wouldn't we negotiate first with what they had received, similar to the same population. I think it's about a few thousand, about a couple thousand folks different from 17 to 22.
I just want to make sure I understand the question. Is the question, why don't we put an escalation clause in this Splost where they get a percentage for until we hit, hopefully,
Absolutely.
108 million?
I mean,
That is certainly something the board could consider.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand what Commissioner Henderson was saying. So they would get more on the overages. That's right. Okay, I got you.
That's what he was suggesting.
Okay, I got you.
just let me add this to, if I may, let's see. That's what we agreed to similar last time. And I don't see why we couldn't negotiate the same with this splash, in which with the overage, I think we came up with the county's share was a few $1 million more still with the overage. And I think it was a win-win for us and also was a win-win for the cities.
All right. Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I would express to you how I felt about things. The city of Covington, half of that city is in District 5, half of it's in District 4. Anything that we do is going to help the county. You can look at the city different than the county, but they're really, if you look at a map, Covington and all the cities are inside the county limits. So anything that we do, road-wise, infrastructure-wise, whatever, benefits the county in an indirect way. And I don't think that, I mean, we struggle, of course, I was in city government for a long time, and I know what that struggle was about with Splost money. And quite frankly, I just think that with the kind of traffic that we have coming into town, the square has become a center of entertainment or whatever. It draws a lot of people here, uses a lot of our roads and everything, or uses a lot of the city's roads and everything, and they're going to have money to fix all that. So I'm strongly supportive of the cities, Mansfield, Newbern, Porterdale, Oxford. All those cities need as much money as they can to keep their infrastructure up. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanders.
My question would be in regards to the projects that the committee actually came up with. Would that reduce some of the funding, or would they have to change that if we actually go up in the numbers? Because what did they base this on? What percentage did they base these projects on?
So originally, the committee was working off of a lower percentage. So their initial work was done, estimated 81,251,000. And so that's the column you see, almost second from the far right. That's their recommendation. Based on a population split, that number would go up to 89 million. And so the committee was able to take that money and say, well, if we had that additional 5 million, these were the next projects in line that just missed the cut. So if you're working off of this sheet, it's really this additional from the IGA that we're talking about. That's the difference between the city's offer and the county's offer.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I understand the reasoning that the ask by the municipalities, and I certainly do. It makes sense to me, but why wouldn't we want to look at some type of compromise? If they're asking for a 76-24 split, I think it'd be reasonable to say to use a 80-20 split, I believe. It's just my suggestion that it shows our sincere willingness to partner with our municipalities. I got 2 municipalities in my district, so I got those guys in this ear. So, or any variation of that, and then the overages stay relative to what the original split is, would be a starting point, and then we work our way from there if people are willing to, if we're willing to compromise on that. So, just by suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You had something, Mr. Sims?
Only observation was brought to my attention, and I think we mentioned it last time, the chiller from the sheriff, that project has been completed, so that would need to be taken off.
And anything else, commissioners? Any more questions? I think yeah. Commissioner Sanders?
So where did the funding from the chiller come from? Does it need to be reimbursed or what? I was just curious.
It was funded from general funds.
Whoa. Let's clarify that.
General fund.
Let's clarify that. Whether it come from his budget or our general fund? His general fund, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that doesn't need to be put back, or I know the legal can answer that. Is that?
No, so it came from his budget, so he added in his budget, so he
Okay.
utilized funds out of his budget. Yep.
Correct. And also, the number that the Splost committee were using, if you notice on the spreadsheet, it was 84 million. Also, they also budgeted for a contingency for about $2.7 million. And that's how the total work budget for the 81. So that's how they came up with that number. I think that needs to be noted.
I got Commissioner Edwards, and then I come to you, and then I come to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the $500,000 for the chiller was from FY22 budget or FY23 budget?
22.
So last year's budget, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So he had it in his budget. I guess I don't want to speak for him. He had to ask the finance director.
I think it was an emergency purchase, and that's why they had to go ahead and purchase it.
But I think her question is,
Where's it gonna go on here, once that
That's
money
what
is?
That project now is open. That remains, the 500,000 remains open for
yeah.
allocation of your choice.
So that was your, Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's what I was gonna ask. So now that 500,000 isn't allocated on our Splost project list, now does this board just decide where that 500,000 needs to go? I'm gonna be first to say, I think it should go towards the aquatic center. Since the aquatic center didn't get anything at all. That's been a project that has been really, the community is wanting. It has been something that was on our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And at least that $500,000 can start working towards getting that particular project moving in the direction where we can actually get it where we can begin to complete and work towards that particular project. So that would be my recommendation of where that $500,000 goes.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sanders.
I think my question was answered, but I do have a question in regards to Commissioner Mason's. Can we have the Splost committee tell us why they didn't put it on the list?
Well,
I was at the meeting a little bit, but I wanted them to understand. Because I don't want it to look like I'm saying it. I want to hear from the citizens.
I'll share with you. Again, we put weight on the 4 different things that we thought were very important: public safety, infrastructure, quality of life, and debt. And when we started talking about the aquatic center was going to be a project that entails some other things. The $6 million that you were asking for the aquatic was going to do some infrastructure, and then we were going to bring in some outside developer to be able to be a part of that, to build and manage and do the aquatic center. So, Commissioner Mason, I think that we as a committee didn't think that it wasn't an important project. We thought that there were others that we felt were more important than bringing the aquatic. Now, there were some questions about where it would be located. And I know initially everybody was talking about possibly in the Denny Dobbs Park near there. And there was some question among us as committee members, like, is that the perfect location? I think that if we had gotten funding, that was something we were going to have to talk about or make a recommendation on. But when we were looking at this, we decided that $6 million is a good idea for the aquatic center, but there were a lot of other involvement with that once you allocate that funding, you had to go out and get some private company, come in, build, manage, all this other stuff. And we thought the dollars would be used in some other areas better. So that was our strategy in terms of determining that. Does that?
Yes.
Any other questions about that?
Yes, thank you.
That makes sense?
Yes. You had a question? Okay, go ahead.
And I respect that from the committee. And I hear exactly what you're saying. But that also doesn't sit well with the residents,
Yes.
who are taxpayers and who do want to see it moving in that direction. So I get the committee's perspective. I respect the committee's perspective. But also we want to look at everything from a whole, because there are citizens that would like to see an additional return on their investment because they are taxpayers. They are paying into this Splost as well. And so we don't want to get into a position where we're just negating them all together. Now, they may not get the full $6 million. They may not get the full amount of the actual project itself because it's going to cost more than $6 million.
Absolutely.
But if there were some seed money going towards moving in that direction, at least the residents will see that this board and the Splost committee are saying, okay, they hear us. So at least they're trying to make some level of effort to provide what they're looking for and what their expectation is.
I fully understand where you are, and I think this committee, I know Dana's here, Bobby's here as well. I think as a committee, we gave it a serious look. But given all the information that Jeff provided to us, we just thought that there were some other priorities that we could use. And now, I mean, even now, if you took the 500,000 and allocated it to that, what would that really do? And you need 6 million. You see what I'm saying? So we just thought that there were some other priorities that we really, really needed, and we made those recommendations based on that. But I'd love to see an aquatic center here. And because, you know, one of the things that we also talked about too, Commissioner Mason, was we know that that particular project could be an entrepreneurship and make money for this county, because it would bring in other people that are competition, and folks that'll be staying at our hotels and eating our food and buying other things within the city. So it looked good, but it's gonna take a lot more money than $6 million to get this kind of project off the ground, and we thought it'd be better used somewhere else.
And you're absolutely correct. I don't disagree with that. But we can say that about several projects that are on this list,
Right.
that the Splost dollars are not gonna fully fund it. So if we're using that as our measurement tool, then a lot of these projects on here we wouldn't be doing, because the Splost amount that's on here are not gonna fully fund those projects. It's just we're starting on those projects, and we're gonna have to find other revenue to complete
Yes.
those projects. So if we're using that as a measurement tool, that, well, it's not gonna fully fund it, then there are several projects we would go back and revisit to say, well, this dollar amount that we've allocated for that project is not gonna fully fund it, but we have decided to allocate funds towards that particular project, even though it's not gonna fully
That
fund
makes
it.
sense. That makes sense. to us.
So I just don't wanna use that as a measuring tool. Let's look at what does the overall community desire? And when we look at our Parks and Recs master plan, what is that master plan actually saying that this community is ready for?
Makes sense.
And so those are things that we know concretely is what this community is ready for. There are some hopes, there are some wishes, there are some things that we may think people want, but what does the statistical data say
That makes sense.
that the community is ready for and that they're looking for?
Well, you know, I'll say this, and I'll answer any additional question, but I'll say this. We put our recommendation based on what I just shared with you. And you as commissioners will ultimately make this decision. So if you feel like we should reallocate, or you want to reallocate some money toward a project that didn't make this list, I think y'all can have that discussion and vote on it and make those decisions. But these are the recommendations that we as a committee put forth, and we're hoping that you use these. But if you can come up with some more dollars, we'd love to see the aquatic center here. And I'm just being real. But I get your point too about some of the other projects. I get that point. And if people are gonna vote on an aquatic center, if we can get this passed through our citizens here in this county, by having that on there, maybe we should reconsider that as a board. But I think us as a committee, we presented what we thought was best for this county, based on the information that we received.
And I think you all did a great job.
Thank
by
you
the
so
way.
much.
I appreciate what you did, and not taking away
Yeah.
what you did, just doing my best to just think and look at things from a completely different perspective.
But I love the idea, because I think it can make some money for this county.
It can. And it being on the western side of the county, it's not only going to be Newton County residents that will benefit or support.
Right.
But you
Right.
also have neighboring counties, bordering
Absolutely.
counties, Henry County.
Absolutely.
You have Rockdale County. You have several counties, even DeKalb is really not that far, that will make memberships, and they will invest, and they will come, and they will visit that location as well. So there's some great benefits.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, again, I thank you guys for all that you guys, hold on for a second. I thank you guys for all that, that you, no, but I'm
good though.
Yeah,
Listen,
but
I've been here before, Mr. Henderson.
yeah, but I'm finna pull you out of the hot seat. So,
Thank you, sir.
again, thank you so much for the time and all the efforts that you guys put, all of you, that y'all, I know it was a lot coming up here, twice a week. And so we appreciate that. I think I can speak on behalf of all the board members and say we appreciate that, every one of you.
We're glad to serve.
Y'all made a recommendation to the board. And so now I'm gonna say thank you, and I'm gonna let you go back to your seat, and I'm gonna have a
you,
little
Mr.
word with the
Chairman.
board right quick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna come to you in just a second, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Board of, I got you after, Mr. Sims. Commissioners, guys, we have tasked a committee to do a job. They did their job. Now, they turned their recommendations back over to, the 6 of us, including, well, 7, including the county manager, to make decisions on how we're gonna proceed forward. They simply made recommendations. Now, you guys, you have the task of putting a final stamp on this. So that's what we're tasked with tonight. I think, honestly, first, what we need to do, I'm gonna ask Brittany, do she believe that we will collect over 108 million? You think that we'll exceed that?
If the economy continues strongly, yes, I do think we will.
Okay. Now I want to the board, we need to make a decision on how we want to move forward with the cities, first of all. That way, we're gonna know exactly what we're dealing with on how to move forward with these projects. So again, the Splost committee, they made their recommendation, they turned it over to the Board of Commissioners. Now, guys, it's our duty to determine how we're gonna move and proceed forward. Mr. Sims has a question, Commissioner Cowell has a question, and then coming back to Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and that's where I was kind of thinking as well. Committee provided us a great project list at this point. We also received I think a fair recommendation from Commissioner Edwards indicating the 80-20. I think that particular split would provide us funding for the projects that we have listed as a county, as well as working with our cities that would also increase their funding level from the previous Splost. So I think that is a fair split. I do know that we have pressing deadlines approaching us for the November election as far as having this Splost on the referendum. And I do know we need to go ahead and move forward with our decisions if we're gonna go ahead and have this there.
July 19th, we need to be making a move, yep.
Yes, so I think we have a good number as far as the 80-20. I think the Splost committee also provided a good list, as well as we have our finance director here that's able to talk about some bond financing that might also, we're able to pick up a few more projects with the bond financing. I'd like Brittany to talk about that for us as well.
Okay. Let me get to the 2 commissioners' questions, and then I come back to Brittany.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cowell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aaron, would you explain for the board what happens if projects are not completed during the Splost time? What happens to the Splost money?
Yes, sir. So the way the Splost law is developed is once a county or a city puts a project on the ballot, the county and city are committing themselves to completing that project. It needs to be completed. It can be scaled back, but it has to be completed. So as a result, what you oftentimes see on Splost ballots is very generic projects. You will see, a pool of money set aside for, quote, transportation improvements, something like that, because the city or county is hedging their bets, and if the Splost doesn't bring in the revenue that they're hoping it will, that gives them a little bit of cushion to know that we can scale back our projects without facing a lawsuit for failing to deliver on the project. Because, we have to project 6 years out and guess about where the economy is going to be in 6 years. I don't think anyone projected we'd be here 2 years ago, right? Things change quickly. So my recommendation would be, to the extent you have to identify projects, only identify those that have to be. Let's keep the categories broad with respect to transportation to the extent possible. One of the other things that allows us to do is projects, it's not unusual for a project to come in below budget or above budget. And by giving yourself a little bit of flexibility, if a project can be completed early and under budget, that frees up revenues that can be moved over to another project that may be exceeding its budget. But just to go back and answer your question, at the end of the day, if a project is listed, it must be completed. And I guess to tie that back around, earlier we were discussing partially completed projects, putting some revenue towards that. If that's the goal, then we need to be careful in how we word that project. So say, for example, 500,000 towards an aquatic center. We wouldn't want the public to go vote thinking they were voting to allocate 6 million to complete an aquatic center. We would have to be careful in how we define that project so that we could deliver on what the county was promising. Did that answer your question?
Not quite.
Okay.
If money's not used for a project, let's use the aquatic center since it's come up. If it's not built or whatever, there's not enough money there. At the end of the term of the Splost, the money that's allocated goes back to the general fund to pay general obligation debt. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So it's possible that we don't get something done. I know this happened with the downtown civic center a few years back. That money had to be given back to the general fund. We need to be careful about projects and asking for them to be built over a period of time, hoping that money will come in for them, because it may not. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay. We got to be careful about hoping for money to come in, because it may not. You may not have enough money to build what you want to build. So I want to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is for Aaron and maybe for the county manager. If we went to some type compromise, we'll just say 80-20 right now, I don't know what that's going to be, but an 80-20 compromise, what does that do to that far right column under additional from IGA? What is that in, because I know we've got Newton Trails at $1 million. So what does that do to that column if we go to a different split than what we had originally intended?
So the difference between the 84 million projected by the, that was used by the Splost committee in the second column from the right, and the projected based on population is about 5.3 million. And so if we go from, say, 82% to 80%, the county goes down to 86.4. So that would basically give you 2.4 million to allocate towards this column. You get an additional 500,000 because we're taking the HVAC chiller off. So that gives you about 2.9 to split among these projects. Right now you've got 5 million, so you're going to have to take off 2.1 million from that list.
All right, so 2.9 as opposed to 5 in that column total.
That's right.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna let Commissioner Henderson go, and then we're gonna bring up. Did you have your hand up? Okay. Commissioner Henderson.
I'll just tell you kind of where I'm at. I know we had talked a little bit, I think, prior to about the Cousin project, and also about the Nelson Heights project. We walked the Cousin when we purchased it, 1.5 million. We walked it, and we said that we were going to put it on the splash, and that we were going to repair it. Then we made, which I wasn't a part of, some plans to build a community center. I think it had 2 levels on it. I think Mr. Jeff Prime did the plans for the county to restore that building and then build a new part on it. And I'm not all that much, in some people's eyes, but one thing I do is I keep my word. And maybe that's all I have is my word, so I'm gonna keep that. And so I think we need to, and I think it was said best by one of the commissioners, whom I won't name, said, let's do these projects that we have, make sure they are done, that we have already committed to. Now, we know we committed to Auburn Cousin. We know we committed to Nelson Heights years ago, 17 years ago. And I think when the committee came up, not this committee, Splost committee, but the other came up and said, well, these other projects, even though you said it, say just forget about it. Say just turn the page on them. It's hard for me to turn the page on something that we've already, or that I believe that we committed to. I guess I'm a firm believer that my word is my bond, and I have to kind of stick to it in spite of. And that's kind of where I'm standing on, is that we had a commitment for that, at least that $8 million for Cousin, and the last estimate I got for Nelson Heights, it was $5 million, and I think at one point it was $1 million on that. I think there should be a discussion on funding those projects, and then maybe we need it at some point. It's too late. That's the reason why I wanted to have a discussion a month ago, especially about Cousin, to sit down with the citizens and talk about it. But I was not afforded that opportunity. But nevertheless, right now I am the commissioner, and I would like for this board to honor their commitment to that projects and those projects. And if we have to rearrange, if we had to bond some money, I think there was one avenue that the county manager Sim said that may be at our disposal. I think we need to, because as I looked at most of these projects on this list, I don't think, and I'm no genius and I can't tell the future, but I don't believe it'll pass because you don't have enough on it what I think the citizens want. And I think we should have had, the board, we should have had more meetings around this horseshoe of what we might think or we believe that might be placed on it that will make the citizens want to go out and vote for it, because it's something in there that is a piece of their community that they would like to be seen done in their community. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to close out. I believe that the idea of what District 2 Commissioner is aquatic center, that's a great idea. And I think that's something that we do need. I never have just believed in public monies and private agreements. Like what Commissioner Cowan had said, we were going to do that civic center right over there on the property, county property. And it took us a while, and all the motel, hotels who wanted to move in and do it, moved on. And so we had no other choice but to take and put the money back into the general fund. So you don't want to do long projects. But we want to do projects that the people in Newton County, what they want. And we need to understand that and do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, again, I think we need to get to some type of agreement on how we're going to move forward with the cities. That way we'll know how we're going to move forward with our project list. And I do understand that there are some changes that you guys want to make to the list. But in order to get to those changes, we need to find out how we want to proceed forward with how we want to proceed forward with the recommendations that the city made. Do we want to counter that recommendation? I did hear 80-20, but we need to get some type of feedback from you guys so we know how to move forward. That way, we can go ahead and start tackling this list in front of us. I got Commissioner Sanders, and then I come to Commissioner Mason.
My question is encompassing with the city projects that were presented to us, because I see that we have some projects on here that are gonna be funded by the money that's coming to the county. Now, are those funds being removed and gonna be only on the city's dollars, or we're partnering with them on those projects? Because some of the things that he actually submitted to us today that the cities want done are actually listed on his list for us to cover.
We received the project list from the city of Covington, separate, their list.
Okay, so my question is, like, some of the $1 million ones, that these are the same, some of the same projects that they actually submitted to us, that's gonna be coming out of their 20%, 17%.
Yeah,
So are we gonna take these projects off of here and they're gonna go up under the city? So that's my question.
So the question is, there are some projects that's on this list, that's on the city list as well, is what she's asking. So if we, give the city an increase, she's asking would those projects come off of our list?
I mean, that makes sense for them too, but what specific project is on the list that is also on the city's list?
You have CID, and I'm not sure if Newton
Oh.
Trail, all those were on, that's why I want to ask
The
where they.
the CID portion was actually for both. They
So
were
that was my
seeking-
question. Do we
Yeah, they were
take up-
seeking funding from the city and the county.
Okay, that's all I was asking.
Yes.
Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I guess maybe what we do need to do is.
I'm gonna poll the board in just, as soon as you
Okay,
get through with
so-
your question, I'm about to
So
poll the
actually,
board.
that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
I was just gonna give my feedback on the 80-20. If
Okay.
are we gonna take a vote on that tonight?
We're
Is that what
about
we should
to, it was a recommendation.
Okay.
So Commissioner Commissioner Edwards made that recommendation. I'm gonna poll the board, and I don't think we don't need a vote on that, do we? Not yet, because it's just
Okay.
negotiations right now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna poll the board, and that's what we'll go back with. So I
Okay,
know
that's
how.
what I was gonna ask.
Okay, so I know how Commissioner Edwards feel about it because he made a recommendation, so,
I'm okay with the 80-20 as
that-
well.
okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders? Commissioner Henderson?
I have a question, and I guess it's to the county attorney. Is that more than what they were asking for, or is it less?
Oh, it's more.
Yeah,
What they're asking for?
It's a
Oh, okay, I'm
reduction
sorry.
from what they're asking for.
Yeah.
The cities are asking for 24%.
Okay, I got you.
And the offer is to give them 20.
But it's
Okay.
more than what they received last year. I mean, the last Splost. Yeah,
I agree.
okay. Commissioner Cowan? You don't agree? Okay. So there's 4 people that agrees, 1 person that don't, so now we got those orders. So now we can start discussing these projects. Commissioner Henderson he led off with his discussion a few minutes ago about the 2 projects that he wanted to give some attention to. Anyone else want to chime in? Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My project didn't make the list. Not only didn't get funded, it didn't make the list. And I had state matching funds, partially state matching funds. I had only a $1.5 million ask. Not upset with the committee. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. But I'm asking this board for $1.5 million for a park in the southwestern part of this county, primarily for the use of the western residents, western parts, citizens' residents. My western citizenry, how about that? So, I look back at the end of the 2017 Splost. We had excess funds of over $4 million, and they went to at least four projects that are included on the current Splost. Over $4 million in access, if I'm reading this correctly. And some of the projects on here now total worthy projects, don't get me wrong, worthy projects, some of them total in excess of $12 million, and I couldn't get $1.5 million. I'm asking to pull $1.5 million from somewhere for a park in the southwestern part of this county for District 1. My last, in the 2017 Splost, the commissioner here before me designated his, that's another question, designated his county, his commissioner appropriated amount for a shelter that was not in his district. Absolutely a worthy cause. I think it was money well spent. So I'm asking this time for 1.5 million for District 1. That's my ask right now, to find 1.5 million in either in the excess Splost funds of the 2017 Splost, if they haven't already been spent or that money moved, or within this Splost.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let me bring Brittany up and let her talk about, you want her to talk about the bonds, right? Correct. So, go ahead, because I got a couple of questions about that, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Just observation, Commissioner Edwards, your 1.5 million trail, that was 1.5 million ask was included in the Newton Trails total project of 3.7. And if you see in the additional ask, we allocated 1 million for it. Jeff Prime indicated he lumped all those projects together. In your project, it was listed in the Newton Trails of the total of 3.7.
Yes, sir. So the Newton Trails asked for 2.2 million, and when you came together with your particular project, because it actually intersects at a Newton Trail, Yellow River Trail system, we added that 1.5 million in that request. So the 3.7 that is in the original amount requested was for both projects.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to retract all the facetious comments I just made.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow. Wow. I was unaware of that. Okay. So I'm gonna ask Brittany to come up so we can talk about bonding, because I might be thinking wrong about bonding, but I was thinking that bonding, we was gonna pick projects that we deem that had significant importance of right now to get started on. Those are the projects that we bond. Is that not correct? Okay.
So there's 2 bond scenarios. There's going to be a SPLOST or potential SPLOST Go bond, and the SPLOST Go bond would be bonding the projects on the SPLOST referendum that you want to go ahead and get started earlier before the collections roll in. So under the debt service project on the SPLOST recommendation, there was $10 million. In the $10 million, $3 million of that, roughly $3 million, it depends on the interest rates are obviously fluctuating, but roughly $3 million of that would go to pay the interest on the bond for the SPLOST projects if the bond is around $25 million. So that left the remaining $7 million in the debt service project. We had initially proposed that as to pay down current county SPLOST or current county debt. However, you could also utilize that $7 million to take out new bonds to fund some projects that maybe did not get on the SPLOST list. And then that $7 million, if you bonded $10 million for 6 years, the $7 million would pay the bond for around 4 years. And if you bonded $15 million, that would pay around 2.5 years of a 6-year bond. So those are just a couple options for projects that don't end up on the SPLOST referendum.
Okay, go ahead.
And this just was our way of trying to identify additional revenue source for adding some of the projects that did not make the list. This was a way of us trying to give you all another option.
Okay. Commissioner Mason? Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, if the committee recommendation, I still have nothing under Newton Trails, and therefore my $1.5 million park. So there's still no funding there. I did make the list. I stand corrected. I made the list, apparently. There is a $1 million if we keep the 70, if we keep the current split, there is the 1 million for, Newton Trails, and I'm not gonna infringe on that with my park. So my park is, the $1.5 million park is still unfunded, is my point. So I still have an ask. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I'm thinking that the split took it down, reduced it down from 5 million to 2.9, you said? Yep. Okay. So there's some decisions that's gonna have to be made about that as well. Commissioner Mason, you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just adding to it, and I was looking at this as well, I think we're looking at two different columns. I think we were looking at the amount requested and the committee recommendation. So when you look at the committee recommendation lines, there are several projects, including Newton Trails. So you have Nelson Heights improvements, Newton County Agricultural Center, Newton Trails, Parks and Recreation, R.L. Cousins Community Center, Senior Services, Enrichment Center, and Washington Street. Those are the items that, under the committee recommendation, that are blank, that's not included in that total amount from the committee recommendation. So it looks like none of those projects will actually be on the referendum in November. And I think we were looking at the amount requested instead of the committee recommendation. And so I guess that's what we need to get clarity, or should we only be focused on the committee recommendation?
Yes.
So that means all of those other items that don't have a figure next to them means that none of them are going to be included in this Splost.
Now that's a decision that, as it sits now,
Correct.
yes, but that's a decision that the board will have to make. But yes, you are correct.
So that goes back to what Commissioner Edwards was saying. We see in the amount requested, there's 3.7 million. But when you go to the committee recommendation, it's 0. So that means that 3.7 that's requested isn't what the committee is recommending.
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to bring clarity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You want to tackle that, sir?
Sure, you're correct, Commissioner Mason. And the far right column where it says additional from IGA, that column came from myself based on having conversations with the county attorney indicating we will receive the additional percentage. And that was $5 million. And based on feedback from the committee, I selected those 5 particular projects. They had a lot of conversation, and I thought it would be a good approach to tackle those particular projects for us countywide. That's why those 5 particular projects were selected based on my watching and observing the committee have debate about all of the projects.
Okay. Okay. So right now, there's a request from Commissioner Edwards of 1.5 million for a park on the eastern side of town. Is that correct? On the southwest side of town. Okay. That did not make the committee recommendations. I'm getting ready to come to you. And so, Commissioner Mason, are you done? You done? Okay. Commissioner Sanders.
I just have a question for Commissioner Edwards. So do you guys already, is the 1.5 enough? Do you already have the land for, also?
I have a site picked out, and I believe 1.5 would be enough for the site and some equipment. The state has given some money for, it's actually on the Yellow River.
Okay, okay. So you already have additional funds to can go, okay.
There's additional money from the state for improvements to the site as well. The downside of it, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Downside of that would be, if I can't secure this property, we still gotta spend this money on a project, and my promise was in the southwestern part of the county. So we'd have to, go to Plan B.
On a park.
Which I think we've done, yeah, for a park,
Yeah.
which I think we've done numerous occasions on other projects. So, that was my ask. I believe 1.5 will be fine. I believe I can secure private funding as well.
That's all mine. I'm just happy to see District 3 finally get some quality of life, so I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Okay. And we heard Commissioner Henderson comments about his project.
If I just could add, and if we could, consider it, and I just go back, to do a little overview, but $8 million, it was, I think, from the proposal that I had been reading in the plan, kind of here somewhere. The Aria Cousin Community Center plan, and I think the total cost of what was being proposed was about 16 million. And when we looked at it, we thought that possibly, and I didn't have a chance to speak with Mr. Jeff Prime, that the $8 million would maybe get half of that. I think if my math is kind of, and I guess I'm asking, because the community center consists of 2 levels, the first floor and the second floor. And I was thinking about just the first floor, and that the $8 million would be somewhat, I think it was $7.5 million would be somewhat sufficient to do that first level of it, because I didn't want to. And it was 7.5, and I said that another $500,000 would do some work on the football field, Wolverine football field, because I think it was, when I talked to Rec Department, it would need some work to be did on it to make it a little bit better for the kids in order to play on it. And I think the estimate was $300,000, about $250,000 to $300,000 to do that. And then $25,000 for a commemorative statue of the Cousin School historic march from Cousin to the square. And then on the back side of it, it's my understanding that we want to do another $20,000 for Mr. Alman Turner, because his last thing that he had wanted to be done in the community, he was trying to put up a community watch group, and he wanted to put signage up with the community name, and that they had a community watch, and we wanted to make that happen for that community. And so the total of that was $8 million. And then we went back to Nelson Heights, because there was something that I had asked for, before the Splost committee. Explained to them that 17 years they were gonna do something, add on the field and stuff, because they moved us to up that way, to put an add on the field. And I think it was told when I talked to the Rec Department, Dwayne, he was saying that the cost factors, he said it was $5 million to do what we want to do over there, from the room to the football field / soccer field / track field that will be used by Rec. So that's where we was at. So it was a total of 13 million? I think, if my math right, Mr. County Manager?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Thank you,
So
sir.
this is what I want, kind of throw that out, and hopefully let the citizens put on the ballot, let the citizens decide on that particular issue. And that's what it really gonna boil down to, whether the citizens wanna vote it up or vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Talking with people in District 5, they're not really that interested in parks and things like that. We are very interested in roads, paving roads, getting ditches cleaned out, getting infrastructure in place, and paying off debt. That seems to be the two primary goals for District 5. So those are covered in here. If it was up to me, I'd do a lot more than what we're doing, but I really think that's where District 5 is staying as far as their concerns. Thank you.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just combing back over through this list to kind of see where the emphasis lies. And maybe, I don't know who can explain it. I don't know if Mr. Sims or Jeff or our committee can kind of explain to me the difference between the $3.5 million that we put towards the countywide park improvements and then the $10.2 million that we put towards the West Side Community Park, because that sounds like that's the same thing. And so I want to know the difference of what those two are. Yes, praise him. Bless him.
So I was about to say, we do have Jeff here, Jeff Prime here to kind of talk. But again, I want to emphasize that the recommendations came from the committee. They decided on the funding level from the projects that we provided to them. So all of the projects, as Jeff Terrell indicated, the directors or the different entities came and presented their projects with the amount requested, and then the committee, based on their great dialogue, they came up with the funding levels.
Okay. Well, and that is, so I'll go ahead. I'll make my comments next. Go ahead.
Okay, so just to clarify and answer your questions. So on the countywide park improvements, the comprehensive park master plan identified around $17 to $19 million of park projects, deferred maintenance type projects that need to be done on the existing park facilities around the actual county. Dwayne and his staff took that list knowing that they didn't feel like they'd be able to get 17 million, so they kind of prioritized, and they started off with their highest priority, and that's where they came up with the 5.5 million of how they would allocate those funds to get the highest priority of that particular list. And then the committee, obviously just trying to make everything fit and cover, as Jeff Terrell said earlier, they dropped it down to 3.5. So all that means is that you'll do less of the countywide improvements than what the 5.5, and obviously you don't address the full 17 million. The West Side Community Park, the estimate to do the total build out on that project was between 16 and 19 million dollars. So and that included from land acquisition, design, and building out the components and things that we had talked with Commissioner Sanders and with Parks and Rec on. So the 10.277 would be to give adequate funds to acquire land, design, and build the first phase of that particular project. And we'd have to determine what that first phase is, working with Commissioner Sanders and the committee and the board. Was there another project you had a question on?
No, but I'm confused.
Okay.
I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and finish up, okay?
Okay, so this 10 million is for a specific project, because I don't want us to get into this whole West Side issue like we're in right now, because we say it's for the West Side, but then it's for a specific district.
So
I don't want it to get to a point where we say it's for the West Side, but the focus is not on the West Side. Districts 2, 3, and 4 encompasses the western side of the county. So I don't want us to get into a point where we say it's for the west side, but it's for District 3. I don't want to say it's for the west side, but the objective is for District 2. I want it to be, if we're going to say west side, it could be anywhere on the west side, because that's the same issue that we have right now with the West Side Youth Facility. It says West Side Youth Facility, but we're trying to put it in a specific district. I don't want that same issue again.
Y'all done? You done?
I'm done.
Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Well, the naming of the west side came from the previous board, so I have nothing to do with that, and it came from the previous commissioner that sat on this seat right here and named her project the West Side Youth Facility for District 3. So that has nothing to do with me. That was done in 2017 Splosh. And it's actually written, documented, and the documents were given to me. It was specifically for District 3. District 3 does not have a park. We don't have a Denny Dives. We don't have a city pond. We don't have a pond city. We don't have a walking trail. We don't have nothing. And it's so sad that when a district wants something, it's not about me. And I know they're making it about me, and certain people are making it about me. It's about that community that has no way of life, quality of life, and never had it for years. So for those who have it in their district, they should be excited that a community that's almost the most dense, has the most kids, is about to get a park that they can walk in. Because the park that the previous commissioner put in was inside of a subdivision that people didn't even know existed until I got on this board. And they can't even go into that park because a lot of them have asked to use it and they were told no because it's gonna inconvenience the homeowners. So you have to build a park that people can use, because right now we already spent $400,000 in a park that the citizens cannot utilize and maintain it. It costs almost $10,000 a month to maintain a park that the citizens cannot even utilize. So you should be happy that the citizens, the residents who are paying the tax dollars, and their children are able to get a park when other commissioners have a huge park with walking trail, a ballpark, has great land, a splash pad. Allow these citizens to survive and have quality of life as well. They pay taxes just like anybody else.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. And this is for Jeff, and just changing subjects a little bit. Within that $8 million, you know, if it was approved by the board to be put on Splosh, we want an indoor swimming pool over at the cousin, the newer part of the $8 million. There was something that I think me and this certain commission rolled over and we looked at, and we thought that would be good for the community and it would be under the recreation department, because we don't have a pool as far as in Newton County under the rec department to teach our children how to swim throughout the county. And that would serve I think, a great purpose. And I'm just gonna say this, and then I end with a comment. It's been kids from town that I know and I love who have drowned swimming in creeks and rivers. And it's sad that in the summertime it get hot, they don't have a place, if they can't go to the wild or don't have a membership, that they would go to a creek or river and they can't swim that well and be drowned. And it's something that'll last forever with the families. But it's something that we can do to try and help other kids from ending up the same way. And I think we look to the future. And my comment last is this, you know, let us work together. I mean, all of our districts work together and just do what what a commissioner want in District 2 and our commissioner want in District 3, and work together and do something for all the people. This is what it's all about. That's why we're up here, is to do something in each of our respective communities. And one thing I do know, you can do something in one community in the next 2 years, if it doesn't change, and you're in a whole different community. But that's good, because it gives you the opportunity to do more good things for more people. Thank you, Mr. C.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
I just want to make sure, were you asking me whether or not $8 million would be adequate for an indoor pool?
We want the first phase I was talking so much about, and we got talking and listening to all the conversations, and I forgot to mention that it was that we wanted a pool, a swimming pool, on the rig, and, you know, I guess we'll figure, it'll be located at Aubrey Cousin.
Okay.
Aubrey Cousin, you know, you, under the plan that you did done,
Right.
I got that. Under
So-
the plan
so
that you
the-
had done, it consists of one, first floor and second floor. Right here, green space, and we want the pool to be placed in there, for it to be configurated again, placed in there on the rec, so the children, could be indoor swimming pool, that you could learn children how to swim in it. And the seniors could, guess whatever exercise in it, you know, low impact, whatever. And configure that room so that it could be used for the community. But instead of 2 floors, he would be on the 1 floor. And you would complete, I think under this plan also as well, it was improvements for the old gym. And I added on, the improvements for the Wolverine football field too as well, because I understand, it's my understanding that, next year, the high school is wanting to use it for a, what do you call it, the band? Battle of the Bands.
Right.
And so we want to improve that, so it'd be a nice place, them using that field, for the Battle of the Bands. And, commemoration out front, because most historic buildings have some out front, like we did in New, Mansfield. And the old school, out front, commemorating the school. And, historic, march from Cousin to the square. And on the back side of the building, it could, you know, we wanted some commemorating, talking about Mr. Almond Turner, who his last request, one of the last requests to the community, he was supposed to do a sign talking about their community, and they had told me, and I forgot half of it, but I'm gonna get it written out if it's approved by the citizens of Newton County to do these projects.
So the only thing I would say is that the $10 million that was in the request was for the specific things that you were pointing to in the plan, which was a community center, renovating and adding space on the front of the building for elections, and then also the groups that are there. So to the extent that we wanted to, go to 8 million and do something different, we could certainly analyze that and work with, with the board and Parks and Rec to determine what that
Right.
is. So, I mean, I can't tell you right now that we could build an indoor pool for $8 million, but what I could tell you is that $8 million would go a long way toward doing improvements for that particular
Okay,
facility.
so if we add on additional $1 million, 10 million.
Could we do it for 10, what
Yes.
you're asking?
Well, the reason why I'm asking that,
So let me jump in there with you. So this is the thing, guys, and you're asking, you're on point for what you're asking, you got the right to ask these questions. But we gotta first figure out where, so there's a recommendation list in front of us, guys. We got to first figure out where we're gonna bring that money, and I understand exactly what Commissioner Henderson, and he was asking, he got valid points that he's asking. But we got to first, at the board, determine where we're gonna pull those funds from, other than, because the list that's provided in front of us don't have that included on, that project included on here. And from what I'm hearing is that's a project that he wants to incorporate on this list. So, yeah.
when you get through, you through? Well, just remember Cousins, it's a project that I wasn't included on, and I've called Jeff a few times and we talked about it. But now that I guess I'm kinda, I won't use the word stuck with it, it's a bad term for it, but we need to do something for the citizens that I represent. And after the first part of the year, Commissioner Cowan will represent them, and after the first part of the year, I will represent Spring Hill, as far as district-wise. But, we love all the people, so we're gonna work off of either or. Work together with that particular project. But one of the things that we need here in Newton County is a swimming pool that we can send our children to learn them how to swim, because I'm tired of every so often we look in the paper and a child has drowned it because he or she does not know how to swim. We can solve, hopefully, all the problem, but we can do our best to solve that problem or help solve that problem to the best of our ability. And an indoor swimming pool, I think would achieve that objective for our citizens. And so, you know, I don't think myself personally, if it was 20 million, that would be too much money to spend on saving somebody's life. I think a life is priceless. And so let's do something. So I think, so what this really boils down to is that that's why we have a county manager, and that's why we have a finance director to help us, if it is the board wishes, to figure out how to get this done, whether it's in District 2, whether it's in District 1, or District 3 or 4 or 5, how to get this done for us, if it's the board who wants it done. And I understand about our committee, and I love each one of them, and especially Miss Bobby, because I stay at their house a lot on the other stuff, me and her husband. But we want to do what we feel is best for all our citizens and something that we know that they need. You can build another road, but you know, you probably somebody step out there and get ran over. But we know this could save lives. So I guess I want to just make one more thing. Commissioner Sanders, if I may. 10 million plus the 15 million to do Aura Cousins in Nelson Heights. Thank you.
Yeah, so again, board, I can't put enough emphasis on, I understand the acts for these projects, but again, we have a list, we have a list in front of us. It's not a concrete list. It's not a list that's been edged in stone, but it is a list that you would have to make changes to. I'm seeking to explain this a little better. This is a list that you would have to make changes to if you want to make or add additional projects. You would have to decide where you want to pull those funds from this list that the Splost committee recommended to us. And that's why we're here tonight, to try to make those determinations. If this is not the list that we want to try to put out for the people to vote on, and we want to provide other projects on this list, then we need to try to find a way to pull the funds from these projects to make up the new list that we want to present to the people of Newton County. Commissioner Sanders.
I was thinking, I was thinking maybe if we go line by line and then ask each, I don't know if that'll take a long time, but ask each commissioner based on that might help. And just to reiterate what Commissioner Henderson was stating, I don't have a problem with a pool. I think a lot of my citizens at the last town hall said the location. So they want it to be a centralized location because they've been utilizing Conyers facilities. So that's what I agree with, it being a location. And I think it might be cheaper if we just do the pool and not a full, like a natatorium like they have on college campuses, a natatorium versus a whole aquatic center if the pool is what everybody wants. So that might help decrease the cost, but I don't know where the funding gonna come from because it takes a lot to maintain a pool. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We can put a dollar amount in here, and if we have an overage, we can add to it. Or, as we did with Spring Hill Park, we moved some money out of our general fund to cover some of that, or moved it from somewhere. So I think to move forward tonight would be to put a reasonable dollar amount in here, which is somewhere between $8 and $10 million, I think, without us trying to anticipate where we're going to be 3 or 4 years down the road from here.
So, can you identify the project that you're talking about?
I'm talking about Cousins School.
Okay, okay.
And then go ahead and get it done. And again, I'm personally think that it's better to take care of what you already have rather than build something brand new. And my reasoning for that is that we've already got it. We've already got the infrastructure in place on a lot of things. Let's move forward with it based on what we have title to. The other thing in terms of the cousin school, I don't know whether there is a group helping design that or not, but I would suggest that somebody put together a group of lay out what they want over there and then give it to Jeff so he'll have something to formulate a number with. But he can always change the number. Just go ahead and put a number in here for the Splost purposes. And if it comes in up or down, we'll see. But that's what we did with Spring Hill Park. We knew how much we had, which was definitely not enough to get that done out there. But I'd rather see us take care of what we got.
Well, so we got, I got Commissioner Mason next, but we got two commissioners that are asking for funds for our Real Cousin School, $8 million. Just want to make sure everyone heard that. Commissioner Mason, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, you know, I'm looking at this list, once again, the committee recommendation. And from what I can see, it looks like our Splost committee has done an excellent job with what they've done when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to the public safety. The only place that I can see where if Commissioner Edwards is wanting 1.5, if Commissioner Henderson is wanting $8 to $10 million, if Commissioner Sanders is wanting something towards a park in District 3, which I think is great and we should, if we're wanting to put in a pool, maybe not an aquatic center. So there are certain asks that are coming forth today. The only place that I can see where we can pull anything from, which is why I pose this question, is the countywide park improvements and the West Side Community Park a duplication? Because if it is a duplication, then maybe we can take the 10 million from the West Side Community Park and maybe split that up to be able to add additional projects, since we don't have land for a specific project in District 3. We don't have a design for a specific project in District 3, as Commissioner, my commissioner on the end, Cowan said, you know, if we want to take care of our Real Cousins, because it's a project that we already have in existence, then maybe that's something that we should visit and say, what is that cost going to cost us to look at our Cousins? We've already purchased that project. I mean, that particular facility. And we haven't really done much with that facility already. So, you know, maybe that's where we should consider, you know, moving those funds. And so I think this board should look at that and say, hey, you know, is that the place where we move those funds? Or is there some other place where we can move those funds from? If we have several commissioners that are asking, and we want to add, you know, I've heard that we want to add more projects to the list. Is it going to cost us $10 million to build a park in District 3? Is that what, you know, how much did it cost us to build the park in Spring Hill? Did it cost us $10 million to do that? So that's what we got to figure out, you know, what is going to be the best way to utilize those funds that we have here. And I'm just putting it out there, and I'm just laying everything on the table so that we can have a discussion.
So let me, are you in support of the acts of the $8 million that Commissioner Henderson asked for?
Yes, I don't have an issue with that $8 million for our cousins, because we do need to figure out a way to get that done, because we did state, I believe that was in 2020, 2021, when we purchased that project, when we purchased that facility, that we were going to develop it, and we haven't as of yet.
Okay. I got Commissioner Edwards and then Commissioner Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, this is a question for, our county manager. So, public safety fleet replacement, what, was some of that in our capital budget this time? And is there wiggle room there with that 12 million?
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, the 12 million for public safety fleet replacement, that actually includes both fire and sheriff replacement. As far as in our capital budget this year, the amount for capital was $1 million. We reduced it. Oh, no, correct, I stand corrected. In order to accommodate the will of the body of commissioners, we eliminated that capital amount.
Okay, so, and have we discussed the ARPA funding for any of that fleet replacement? I'm asking because I don't recall.
No, that is a great point, and I hope to bring that up to you all soon.
You hope to bring up the ARPA funds?
Yes,
for-
utilizing some ARPA funding to address some of our capital needs.
Do you know, for vehicles as well?
For capital, just more or less capital, it address a lot of capital needs.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Henderson?
Thank you. I just want to be clear. It's 10 million. I think when Mr. Jeff came up and we spoke, he said in order to incorporate that, when we come back and do have a plan, and we'll call a community meeting, if it passes by the citizens of citizens of Newton County, then we will have a community meeting, and we will talk about how the pool will be situated in there, and then how we would address that particular space and other amenities that may go in there up under the budget of that 10 million. And just let me say this, I'm gonna reiterate this again. I was not a part of these plans. I was not a part of it. It was something that, you know, I came in on the latter end, wanted to have a meeting. Nobody wanted to have a meeting with me because I believed in a compromise with these plans in order to get something that hopefully the citizens, and it'll probably end up being the 10 million, what we're talking about now, because I would have had the, Mr. Jeff kind of tell me what we need in order to meet the objective for this particular room. I know he told that for Nelson Heights. Now that was one that I was a part of, but where it seems right now that we may get $1 million, I'm not sure for Nelson Heights. But so if we're just gonna get $1 million, since you done took my other 4 million, then at least I can build on, add on a classroom for the at the community center, and get the grass cut so it can be an open field so that the kids and rec can practice ball and excel on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I didn't get it, I forgot to ask Commissioner Edwards. Are you in favor of fixing up our Red Cousins as well?
That's a county-owned property, is it not?
Yes.
By law, we have to fix that up.
Okay. So, all right. I'm sorry, Commissioner Sanders. I apologize.
It's not more so a question, a statement. I just want to clear, Spring Hill Community Park is on county property. So we want to make sure we clear that up. Commissioner Mason, not Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Edwards stated that he has money to assist with his 1.5 million to create his park. To reiterate, I don't understand why certain people are giving me so much power up here, but thank God, to God be the glory. But District 3 does not have anything at all. In order to build Denny Dobbs, you had to pay for the land. You had to acquire the land. That's over 20 acres of land? The county had to pay for that. So I don't know if it came out of a splosh, a dosh, or whatever it may be. It came from somewhere. So in order to acquire, I'm pretty sure on that splosh, it was about 10-point-something million dollars. I would love to see that acquiring. I would love to see that document. In order to purchase that land, there had to be funding that came from to create that park. Why is the emphasis so much on District 3? I have no idea. If there's something I did to you, Commissioner Mason, I apologize publicly. I have no idea why you keep coming for me. But anyway, District 3 has nothing. So you want to keep putting citizens that is in a youth that's in a school that's already overpopulated, that has no quality of life. I don't know why you don't want them to have it. I have no idea, but that's you and God. But I just want to reiterate that they do not have anything. So when you built these other parks, you had to put the funding in it to acquire the land. All of it was not county property. So you had to pay for it in order to build everything that's on it. So that's all we're trying to do is turn a wrong into a right, giving a community that has nothing, no splash pad, no park, not even a football field, a playground, nothing to be able to access. So to be able to have that, we need to be able to provide for this community. And it has to go in a splash to be able to do that.
I've asked, I'm sorry, I asked the county attorney to kind of help us. We still gonna have to make a decision where we want to pull this, and there's a recommendation that we pull it from the West Side Park, Community Park. But I asked the county attorney to give us some kind of recommendations on what we can get as far as bonding. How can we get just some extra dollars there?
Yeah, so, you know, my understanding is that the board's general preference would be to start with the committee recommendation column and complete those projects, and if possible, discuss what could be added. If the board is going to go with the 80-20 split, we're going to have to cut out of that 5 million. I think it was 2.1 is what we came up with a minute ago.
2.4.
2.4, is that, and then we had the 500,000 from the
Correct.
HVAC. So that puts us at 2.9 million there. We need to cut out 2.1. I thought I heard, Brittany, did you say that if the county paid the debt service out of a bond, you would save 3 million on the debt service?
There's two types of bonds that I was speaking on earlier. There's a Splost Go bond, which would be to bond the Splost projects on the referendum. The 3 million on that is to pay the interest on that bond. That leaves $7 million that could be utilized for other debt if the board so wishes to.
So does that free up any money for additional projects? That's what I was confused about.
The two scenarios I gave earlier were $10 million and $15 million. So yes, there could be potentially some money for a $10 million bond or $15 million. It just depends on how long the board wishes to utilize this Splost to fund this debt.
I'm still not sure I understand, and I'm sorry, it's my fault here. So on the debt service, we've got amount requested 10 million. Is that what you were talking about with the Splost bond?
The 10 million incorporates both. So
Okay.
the 3 million of it would be Splost bond, and then the additional 7 million would be additional bonds.
Understood. So what you're saying is if the county issues the Go bond, the Splost Go bonds to fund those projects, 3 million of that is going to be debt that has to be paid back just for the Splost. And then there's 7 million that is going towards pre-existing debt. Okay, and so it's possible to, I suppose, free up 3 million by not doing the Splost bond, period. Or free up 7 million by not repaying the existing debt. So it's possible to get 10, but those would be two sacrifices the board would have to make.
Correct.
Okay. And so, board, for your information, that tells you there's some additional money that could be had there. I think the 7 million would be easier if you're willing to live with that debt. Now, Brittany, is that debt that the county can continue to absorb?
The first option I gave of the 10 million, the Splost could cover around 4 years of that debt. It's a 6-year debt. So the county would need to look at funding that debt 4 years into that. And that would have to come probably from the general fund.
And how much are the annual payments on that?
Annual payment is around 1.8 million.
Okay. So that's the trade-off. You could free up the 7 million, but it sounds like 1.8 million per year would be the cost to pay out of general fund down the line. So if you were to start with the committee recommendation column, second from the right, the projects that are already listed, that puts you at 81, you can actually call that 81, or I'm sorry, 80,750. And you can go up to 86. So that gives you $5 million to use without making any changes to the county's plans for debts. I'm sorry, no, it wasn't 5 million, it was 2.9. In the farthest right column, you have $5 million already identified there. So at a minimum, you need to cut out 2 of those projects from that list just to break even to where you are. And if you want to then come up with an additional $10 million for another park, other projects would have to be cut there.
Wow. Unless they pull money from, they will have to pull money from the existing list to make it work. That's correct. Okay, yeah. So I got Commissioner Henderson, then Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. C. You know, I think this is where we chime into the county manager and Ms. Brittany. How can we get all these projects, this list that we have here, this list, plus I think they added, I think 10 million for Cousin and the additional 1 million for Nelson Heights. How can we fund all of these projects? Because I think all of them is very important to the citizens of Newton County. How can we fund them? And I think you gave us an idea, but I just want mine, if it can be, to be spelled out. So I yield to the county manager.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. So only way we were able to do it is to address the Splost committee funding, or actually reduce or eliminate some of the projects that they have listed. Our finance director did give us some options as far as bonding to increase a funding option. That will be the will of the commission if you all want to do. She suggested 10 million or 15 million. Again, that would require a obligation from the general fund going forward, so that's something you all will need to think of. But I think the Splost committee recommendation, I think it takes a holistic approach. I stand with that recommendation that they provide. I understand with Cousins, there's a need to address an existing facility. I think if it's the will of the commission that if we have to adjust some of the listing, that will be fine. But you know, maybe not the 10 million for Cousins, maybe 8 million, and then look at the 1 million for Commissioner Edwards' project, and then use maybe use bond funding to get those projects. Go ahead.
Well, and I guess.
But I need to emphasize, if you only focusing on Cousins, then the other projects that we had listed here, they would go away. They would not receive any funding.
Just, if I may, the question that I asked, and maybe I wasn't clear, maybe I didn't say it right, is that I wanted you and Ms. Britton to figure out a way to do it. But since we're going back to the Splost committee, why can't, see, we got, think about with $39-40 million of fund balance, excess cash, emergency cash. Why can't we set aside $5 million to assist with this project? And we still would have over the 10%, I think, way over the 10% that's required by law in order to operate the county. Why can't we move some money that way in order to achieve this objective for these projects if it's approved by the citizens of Newton County? I mean, and so I just, I'm kind Trying to figure out why we can't work it, if we can, that way. Is the law against that, using?
No, I do know
Okay.
the benefit of us maintaining our
Well,
financial stability with fund balance as
I
far as
hear you.
our accounting, so that is important.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I understand how important it is. But I also think that these projects, if they're approved by the city of Covington, it's equally as important than building a big old pile of cash that we can't use it to improve the lives of citizens and possibly even save a life. And so I just, help me understand.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to withdraw my $1.5 million ask. I'll go find private money to go with the state money I have, under the condition that we do not deplete any further the far right column of the IGA money, especially as it relates to the CID and the trails. So I'll withdraw my 1.5 ask. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was gonna ask if, and I don't know what the amount was, but I was trying to go in and research. But it looks like, since Denny Dobbs is a matter of discussion, it looks like it cost $2 million to build Denny Dobbs Park. If we can go and find out if that's accurate or not. If that is accurate, if it did cost $2 million to build a Denny Dobbs Park, let's take $2 million and let's build a park in District 3. If that's the big concern about having that in District 3, let's make that happen. If that is the cost, if that is the ask, and then if there's additional funding that we can take from this and spread it for other projects, let's make that happen, if we can do that. And I don't know if that is the actual cost. So if we can do some research to figure out what that cost is, so that we can actually make that happen, so that we can fulfill as many of these projects as we possibly can, which is the objective that we're trying to get to see on this committee recommendation list.
Wow.
Where can we pull funds from to make some of these other projects happen?
So guys, we've been here now, going on 2 hours. Go ahead.
Our project manager, I've been working with him, we've been going backwards and forth, so we might have a solution that might be good for the board. If you go ahead, Jeff.
So using the 80-20 split, that means we're starting with $86,400,000. The committee recommendation, if we take the $500,000 for the chiller out, is you're committing $80,751,272 of that 86.4. So that leaves you with $5,648,728 to allocate. Now, using either of the two options, using the bond, you could add 10 million to that number and go 15 that you can then allocate to your projects, or you could add 15. I'm just saying those were the two options if you went the bond route. So what you've got is using the 80% split, in keeping the recommendation for the committee, if you want to start that as the starting point, then you can start by adding 5.6 and splitting that up among your projects, and then deciding whether or not you want to add any bond funds to try to make up some of the other recommendations that are coming forward. I mean, it's just something to consider.
So, Brittany, I'm not sure. I didn't hear exactly how much that note would be. I think you said 1.8 million or something like that?
Per year, annually.
Per year. What would that do to our general fund? Can we take on a note like that?
Like I said, this is a 6-year bond, so it would be, if you did a 10 million bond, the Splost would cover around 4 million of it, or 4 years of it. So we would be looking at having to pick this up probably sometime around 2028, 2029. So, you know, that's several years down the road, but it would add to your general fund unless you pick that up in the next Splost.
Wow. I'm a Commissioner Sanders, you had your hand up. Did I miss you?
Yeah, I had a question for Jeff. I'm sorry, Jeff, playing musical chairs. Can you explain what the Splash Committee came up, and I know the original amount was 8,000 and you came up with 10.26 thousand to build it out. Can you explain the details so this can be put to rest? 'Cause it's tiresome.
8 million.
The
million.
the original was 8 million, but I know he
Yeah.
increased it to
Right.
10.2, because I think there were some fees or something that you had.
So all right, so basically what we talked about doing was, the $8 million was focused around buying the property and building just some Phase 1 park elements, but with no building. We were going to partner with Senior Services,
Thank
and
you.
Senior Services was going to consider putting their requested funds co-located. That was one option.
And that's the satellite service that we need for senior services to combine with District 3 in that
The-
park. Okay.
the
just wanna make
request,
sure
yeah,
we
this-
reiterate that.
The request that Ms. Frida put in for that.
Thank you.
The 10.277 was to add $2 million to that to be able to build a Phase 1 building of some sort.
Okay.
And we would then determine what that building was going to be, the purpose behind it. But it would be a community center of sorts, is what we talked about. So it was to build a small Parks and Rec or community-type center building in addition to the other things that we had already listed in the $8 million.
Thank you so much for reiterating that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So
It's
guys,
not just a park, it's combining with our seniors, community, and everybody combined. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
thank you. Guys, we've been tasked with, my apologies, sir, it's not really open for public comment, so I apologize to you for that. But tonight, there has been recommendations made tonight, and I have Ms. Walker taking notes. And the task is gonna be to the county manager and finance director and myself to come back with something to present to this board. We have to have this done by July the 19th. We heard of the, and we took the notes. Everybody agreed that we want to move forward with our Red Cousins. Commissioner Edwards withdrew his park. He wanted to make sure that we keep the CID and trails. So we're tasked to find out where that money could come from. I'm gonna call another special call meeting before, I know y'all are tired of the meetings, but we gotta do it. We got to get this done. I'm gonna call another special call meeting to come back to present these findings to you guys. And you have opportunity then to, I guess it'll be before July 19th, correct?
If you could do 1 week from now, that would give us, I think, about a week to get the actual contracts drafted. There's a lot of work that we need to do. So if you come back and meet again, just know that that meeting needs to end with a resolution.
Yep, got it. All right, you have anything before we?
Only thing I wanted to add is that, I think, did we get some clarity on the excess funds? Are we gonna keep the same funding level as 2017 for excess funding for the cities?
Well, I think we did the 80-20. I think the board all agreed to 80-20.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
But anything over the 108 is what I'm stating. Oh, 80-20 throughout, okay.
Yeah, so I think
Okay.
that'll be the same
Okay.
exact way that we did it
Okay,
the previous Splost. Yep.
Okay.
The county will receive overages and the city will receive their overages.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
In most jurisdictions, the percentage you have doesn't change once you hit your
Yeah.
estimate.
Okay,
This was unique.
Yep.
So my understanding is, and what I'm gonna take back to the cities is the 80-20 throughout the entire Splost.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guys, I greatly appreciate all of you for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, board members. I seek a motion that we adjourn now. It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you so much.